What kind of programs does this school have? How are the test scores? How many kids do a classroom? Homes.com knows these are all things you ask when you're home shopping as a parent. That's why each listing on Homes.com includes extensive reports on local schools, including photos, parent reviews, test scores, student-teacher ratio, school rankings, and more. The information is from multiple trusted sources and curated by Homes.com's dedicated in-house research team. It's all so you can make the right decision for your family. Homes.com. We've done your homework.
Brews and banter.
Hi, Frank.
Hey, Roman. What's going on?
Doing great. Happy to be back in the studio. Crazy week. But I'm also happy we got another guest with us.
Yeah, so go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, guys. Thank you for having me on. My name is Gary Phipps. I always tell people I'm kind of just a normal, everyday Midwestern, dad and husband. Kind of got a somewhat of an interesting background, I guess. I'm currently a drone pilot for a LiDAR mapping company, kind of helping out land surveyors and civil engineers kind of do their jobs quicker. But other than that, I like to write. I'm really big into guns, and I got a military background as well. So, yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
awesome. Thank you
for joining us.
Thanks for service. And do you want to start? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, thank you for your service. But so we'll get into that. But it's you ever watch Oak Island?
Okay, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
It's some show on TV, but they use a lot of LiDAR stuff like that for like underground.
Oh, yeah. I watched that. And I mean, LiDAR is used for tons of stuff like that. I mean, down in South America, they use it for finding hidden temples. I actually got a quote from a TV show for my company to go out to South Carolina to look for a pirate that they think that used to live out there. And it's pretty interesting because you can see changes in the ground from the LiDAR that it picks up if you know how to process the data right. So there's a lot of different applications for it. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, cool stuff.
We'll dive into that. When did you join military and what branch?
So I joined pretty much straight out of high school. I joined in 2006. I joined the Army. And I don't know, have you ever watched Band of Brothers?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's kind of what got me. I always wanted to join the Army, but after watching Band of Brothers, I was like, I want to be a paratrooper. Like, I want to jump out of airplanes and do all that cool stuff. And I had family members that were in the military before, but one of my cousins who had just gotten back from Iraq and gotten out of the Army, he was there for the initial push into Baghdad back in 2003. And he took me to the recruiter station. He's like, hey, we're going to get you a Ranger contract. You're going to be a Ranger, Airborne, all this cool stuff. Well, they didn't have any more Ranger slots, but they did have Airborne. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go Airborne then. And I ended up going to basic training early, I think February 2006. And I got stationed at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, right after that, and been jumping out. I mean, I got deployed to Iraq. I would probably say 6 months after I got there, and that was a 15-month-long deployment. I mean, a very long time to be overseas, but it was an adventure. I served 10 years, and I probably wouldn't have made it if it wasn't for my awesome wife holding down the house. While I was in military, wives do not get enough credit. But yeah, it was a trip.
Was that's 82nd Division?
Yes.
Nice. I have a friend who also was in 82nd.
Very nice. Yeah, you seem to run. I run into 82nd paratroopers all the time in the wild.
Yeah,
and it's funny. Sometimes they're old timers, sometimes they're younger guys, and you'll see them with a pair of jump wings on their car, or wearing a T-shirt or a hat. And I'm always like, "Hey, what's going on? When were you in?"
Yeah,
and, you always end up connecting with them.
What's the other big one? Is it
101st?
101st.
Now they don't actually do. There's a small unit there, I think, that jumps at airplanes still. But for the most part, they're we call them dope on a rope. They're air assault, so they rappel out of helicopters more than jump out of airplanes. Now.
I see. Yeah, then that's in Alaska, correct? or northwest?
No, so that's actually down in. What is it? The one between Tennessee and Kentucky, at Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Okay. I thought for some reason they were in Northwest.
There is an airborne unit up in Alaska as well, and I know they do some jumping down in where jump school is down in Fort Benning, Georgia's, and I think Hawaii might even have a small airborne unit, and there's also one in Italy as well. But yeah, Army's changed a lot since I was in.
Yeah, you see 82nd Division a lot because that's probably the largest one, right?
It is. They're a rapid defense division. So basically, that division has separate brigades within it, and usually those brigades are on a rotation. Where if you're on the Ready Brigade, you can be deployed anywhere in the world within 48 hours. So if there's an emergency where they need combat troops, that brigade is literally keyed up and ready to go to put their parachutes on and jump into another country across the world and stay there and fight if they need to.
Sure. Yeah.
That's probably why they got to train more soldiers in that division, just for the expedited deployment.
It's pretty intense there. It's its own city, like a lot of military posts. And I always tell people it's like modern day Sparta. Like if you're living on Fort Bragg and you wake up in the morning at 6 a.m., you hear special forces and airborne soldiers running down the street singing songs about killing bad guys right next to where kids are getting on a school bus. Bye, Dad. And they're, it's crazy. It's a different world.
My brother did 10 years in the Marines and then 4 reserve. And we went down to, he was stationed in South Carolina, and what's the name of the station?
Camp Lejeune?
Camp Lejeune, thank you. That's where the boot camp was, and then he was stationed maybe North Carolina after that. But it's a big state. It's like a city. Like they have their own municipality, I think. I think they have their own they have their own
fire departments, shopping centers, post office, everything.
Same schools for kids, and that was interesting.
Yeah,
but so is the Army why you got into drones, or was that something different?
Actually, the Army is kind of why I got into drones. I mean, I think me naturally, I probably would have eventually gravitated towards drones. But whenever I was in the Army about 2008, my first sergeant came up to me at our unit and he goes, "Phipps, you're going to Fort Benning for drone training." And I was like, okay. So I got voluntold to go down to Fort Benning to get trained on these drones. And it wasn't like big time drones. These are very small hand launched drones meant for reconnaissance, because that's what we were. We were a recon unit, cavalry scout. And so I went down there and got qualified on it, and I never flew it in combat. I assisted guys who flew it before I got trained on it, but it was fun to do training with it like that in the field. And then that's kind of what led me into my job now. They see it on my resume. Hey, he used to fly drones. Maybe he'll want to do it, professionally. I was like, all right.
How different are those drones versus like the consumer version of drones that we buy now?
Very, very different. I mean, you could buy similar drones kind of to what we used in the Army. I mean, it's going to be expensive. The payload's the most expensive part on it. The type of camera you have. We use FLIR technology, which is kind of like infrared. So you can see the heat signatures on the ground and stuff, which you can get now. You can get thermal cameras for drones on the civilian market. You're just going to pay a pretty penny for it. But most of the drones in the civilian market now are quadcopters instead of fixed wing. Now, there are also fixed wing, but most applications for drones are going to be, four separate blades running at the same time.
And the ones you use in the military, are those, I might not have the term correctly, are those the ones that they're not as automated as more like civilian friendly, I guess, where you can leave it hovering? You actually have to control their elevation, rotation, all that stuff?
So the ones that I flew, it was called a Raven. I forget the actual nomenclature for it. But the Raven was... I mean, you're flying it. It does have modes on it where you can set it to loiter and it'll like stick in a certain area and fly. Like if you just want to monitor, one specific grid square, you can set it to do that. But I would say more civilian drones are more maneuverable, I think, than what the Army ones are now. I mean, I guess it depends. Army's got I think now today they have like 20 or 30 different kinds of drones that they use. So I'm kind of out of the loop.
Yeah, the technology changes.
I was thinking of those drones that they use for like racing and competitions where they just fly through.
Those are FPV drones.
FPV
FPV drones. No, those are insane.
View? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
first person view.
Yeah. And I have a couple buddies that are into that I work with. And I mean, it's amazing what those things can do. I haven't gotten into it just yet myself, just because I don't really have a need for it. It'd be fun, but I got other stuff to blow my money on at the moment. But
we're looking.
I don't know. Yeah, yeah, like drinking, which you're not supposed to do while flying the drones, especially commercially.
Good to know.
But that'd be fun.
I'm assuming you're 107 certified.
Yeah, Part 107, absolutely.
Yeah. I was a step away from that, so I got into drones too, but more like civilian versions. Like DJIs or DJI Mavic Pro that was my first one.
Nice.
And then I wanted to go into using it for professional, like for construction and stuff like that. And I went and took courses on how to be on the construction site and measure a pile of gravel, for example.
Volumetrics.
Yeah. Or we talked about flare too.
Nice.
And I don't know, I got so much going on with my business, but my friend really got into it and took off, and he was our guest on our show. His episode is coming out soon too. But
the episode will be out, yeah.
And then he really got into it. So he got his 107. He took courses. He actually uses it quite a bit when he travels to Hawaii, and he hovers over water to be able to spot where the whales are. And then with his camera, he takes pictures of them breaching from the water.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What kind of? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. So what are you drinking? You got the Modelo hat.
Yeah, I got the Modelo hat. I was thinking about getting Modelo, but I ended up going. So we have a local place right down, probably not even a half mile from my house. They're called Godfrey Meat Market. It's actually like a slash restaurant slash like booze store, and you can buy like really good cuts of meat there. It's like a mom and pop shop. Well, they carry some local St. Louis brand brews, and I was like, well, I want to get something unique. My wife, me and her usually drink Bud Light. We're from St. Louis, Anheuser-Busch. That's just what we got. We grew up on it, but they had some interesting stuff there. I was thinking about whiskey, but I ended up going with this. It's called Madagascar. It's like a vanilla coffee. Sort of dark beer.
Yeah.
And I usually like it. I mean, I can't drink like tons of them, but like I was telling earlier, I didn't realize it was like 9.3 alcohol per volume. So that one kind of took me by surprise, but it does taste good.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it'll kick your ass later.
Yeah, just don't chug that.
So it's made by a company called Four Hands Brewing,
cool.
and they're actually based out of St. Louis, and they have a huge selection of different crazy beers that they make. So if you ever go to like fourhandsbrewery.com, they got like a huge amount of stuff that you can check out. And I believe you can order it from them too, but they're a good local brew.
Yeah.
Nice. We can check that out.
Yeah, we like all those local all those the mom and pop shops, all these things we try to support also. The chain restaurants don't need us.
No.
No.
But it's nice to see those small shops supporting local brewers, and they put their beer, and that's nice. When you took on, till this day, how long have you been running your drone business?
Well, so I'm actually working for a company out of Texas. Mm-hmm. They reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to fly drones for us? And I was like, all right. So they had me come train with them for about, I would say 6 weeks. I was down in Texas, and they taught me the ins and outs of LiDAR and photogrammetry, how to fly properly. I got my Part 107 while I was down there. And so I've been with them, I think it'll be 3 years this September. And it's been a wild ride. I mean,
Nice.
I get to travel quite a bit.
Yeah.
For my job. I'm basically in charge of the entire East Coast when it comes to providing services for our customers. So anytime, whether the job be in Pennsylvania or South Carolina, I hop in my truck, drive all the way down there, spend a couple days there flying the site, and get back home.
And what kind of clients are these? Sorry.
So these are mainly land surveyors and civil engineers. Sometimes, like recently here locally, I had a client this land surveyor had a client who is a big deer hunter, and he owned a couple thousand acres, and he wanted to have photogrammetry taken of his property before all the leaves came, so he could see where all the game trails were,
right.
so he could plan hunting parties with his buddies. And that's not cheap. This is like almost a $10,000 job that he's paying for. So I go out there and spend about 3 days flying the site for him, and they're going to build him a nice map for, him and his hunting buddies, and he's going to put it up in his hunting shed, and they can plot out where they're going to go.
That's dedication.
So
right
it's
there,
10,000 because the size of the land?
So acreage comes into play. The type of drone that we use comes into play. Distance from my home base comes into play, and how long it takes for my back office to process the photogrammetry. A lot of that kind of all comes together. Our quoting process is pretty, I guess, in depth as far as trying to save the customer money, but it also has to be worth it for us as well to get out there. So,
yeah.
How long does it take to process that? Like, what is that turnaround time when you're done shooting?
I would say, my data guy, I think it took him the first 700 acres took him about, I'd say 48 hours, and about the same for the second.
Yeah, that's not bad. I'm thinking it's like, weeks or something. I don't really know.
It depends on who you are. I mean, we hired a really good guy. Actually, I recruited him. I used to be a recruiter also. So my company had me looking for this guy that we needed. And he's like a wizard when it comes to manipulating a LiDAR and photogrammetry from drones. I'm so glad we have him because he makes magic happen.
Sure. Yeah, perfect.
Do you guys incorporate AI into processing?
Not yet. I've been to a couple conferences. I was at the Vegas conference. It's called Geo Week about 1.5 years ago. And some companies are starting to push out software where they're trying to utilize AI more. But when it comes to photogrammetry and LiDAR, there's a lot that it can miss or misinterpret. And it almost takes a human eye to really figure out what's right or wrong sometimes. I mean, I think even if AI gets really, really good at it, it's still going to take a trained eye to at least glance it over and make sure that there's no issues with it.
I think we'll have to do that for a little while. Actually, this is interesting. I went to my dentist. I had an appointment, and then they did x-ray of my teeth, and then their AI software instantly starts evaluating the images, the x-ray from the dentist, and then point out a few things that like possible cavity or whatever coming up on this tooth or this tooth, and then deformity on this tooth or whatever. So
that was just your face, the deformity.
Yeah. I'm glad that's the only place they stopped. And then the dentist was kind of reviewing that, and and she was like, okay, this tooth is actually fine, it's just that shape, so dismiss that. The other thing, she looked into it, she goes, oh yeah, I can see where the cavity could be coming up in this area. So there's this medicine they apply to reverse the process. And she was like, yeah, we're using AI. It's amazing. And I think
that is crazy. I haven't ever heard of that. That's neat.
Some people don't know how to interpret their lab results from the doctors. And they'll take that and put that into the AI.
I did that recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I was, I have sleep apnea, and I hadn't been using my machine for years. Well, I started having these weird heart palpitations, and so I went to the doctor, and I was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Well, let's get blood work." So they gave me blood work, and they came back with all this stuff, and I didn't know what to make out of it. And I told my wife, I was like, "You know what? I'm going to run this through ChatGPT and just see what it says." It told me all kinds of stuff, and then from there, I asked it, "What vitamins can I take to help offset some of the issues?" It gave me a list of like take garlic, take this, take that, and so now I'm taking it, and I feel a ton better. And also, the sleep apnea machine actually works wonders. If anybody has been hesitant, if you snore at night and you're not sleeping good, it'll literally save your life.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah.
When you get that analyzing done by AI, whatever it spits out, just kind of run it by your doctor just to verify.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I told him that I did that. And I told him, I said, hey, it told me to take this, this, and that. And he was like, yeah. He said, that sounds good. And I was like, awesome.
Yeah, it sounds good, but I'm still going to charge an office fee.
Yeah.
Well, if you went into the office.
Oh, whatever. They'll figure it out.
Well, they have other ways. Some doctors do telemedicine. So some of those things, if they don't require you to come into the office, some doctors might offer, oh, that's not important. it'll be cheaper if I just do telemed, and we can just review that, and I'll tell you okay or not okay. It kind of saves you time, saves them time. They can put time towards, other patients, and, deal with something more serious instead of taking up time, something that could be simple, from the office.
Yeah. So we talk about this, right? Now moving on, because you were in the Army, and you do this light art, technology. Let's talk about guns.
All right.
Because we're big gun guys also.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear.
He's big. I'm just average.
Yeah. So yeah, we know a little bit about them. We've got, in New York, we've got all these regulations. It's ridiculous, even for ammo. Just buying the ammo. Like, you guys probably can get it at your meat market there next to that big cut of beef, right?
You would think. So I am in Illinois, which is almost as bad as New York, California.
Okay, I thought you were in Missouri. Yeah.
No, but what's nice is I'm right on the border of Missouri. So I can literally drive 20 minutes and go across the river, and I go over there, and it's so funny because, we have a good gun shop here. There's a gun shop called Piasaw Armory in Alton, Illinois, and they are huge Second Amendment supporters. They're just really, really great people there. But Illinois has now taken away their ability to sell ARs or, AR ammunition or anything like that, which is crazy. And so if I want anything like that, I have to go to Missouri and get it, which I guess technically is illegal, taking stuff across state lines. But I never said I did it. Yeah. I'm just saying,
allegedly,
I would have to. Allegedly,
it's possible for someone to do.
Yes, yeah.
It's so annoying here, and all the. They and the same with you. Everybody's getting it. It's all the legal gun owners that are these criminals, these shitbags. They're not going to pay attention to any laws, so they keep putting these things in place that just damage the people that are respected.
And I don't understand. Most people that I've talked to that against guns don't even realize how much of background checks, training, regulations that we have to follow in order to own guns. Yet alone, if you have a license to carry, concealed, not concealed, depending on the state and regulation, your job. Once they hear about that, they're like, "Oh, wow, that's a lot." I think there's over 300 some regulations that gun owners have to follow.
Yeah, and guess how many criminals follow?
That's right.
Zero.
Zero.
Yep.
There's just so much already in place, and I don't understand why are we such target constantly? If you give them full power, they'll just take everything away from you. And and I don't understand why. Like, can someone give me a better argument? What?
Yeah.
How to weigh it against the benefits of people having it?
Yeah, I would say I hate using the term because so many people misuse it, but it's a slippery slope when it comes to people trying to, I forget what the word is, but, kind of just pretend like they care so much about, these mass shootings, which is a tragedy. Don't get me wrong, but mass shootings are 2% of all gun violence. And did you know 55% of gun violence is due to suicide? And almost the majority of it after that is gang violence. So,
and mass shooting, part of that's got to be a mental problem, right? Like, there's something psychological that.
Yes.
What kind of a human do you have to be that you have no problem just going out there and just slaughtering people?
And of that whole 100%, from suicide, gang violence, all these things, what percent is that? What percentage of that is legal versus illegal gun owners?
I saw this stat not that long ago. I actually had some pulled up here. Oh yeah, so it is less than 2% of prisoners obtain firearms from retail for their crimes.
Yeah. Right.
So they're not getting these from a mom and pop gun shop. They're getting them illegally, which, people are like, "Hey, let's be like Australia and let's just ban guns." It worked for them. And I'm like, well, guess what? Australia has the population of Los Angeles. So yes, it's easier to control a smaller population like that. But also, the U.S. has more guns than I think the top 5 militaries in the world combined.
Right.
So with that being said, there's guns aren't going anywhere. No matter what laws we put in place. I mean, I'm not going to say how many guns I have, but if a lot of people have as many as I have, they will not be out of circulation anytime soon.
Right.
Well, also, if you think about if something happens tragic, like let's say World War, right? What country would want to invade a country that has so many guns and gun owners? I mean,
Yeah,
you could have a lot of guns
during
laying
World War
around.
II.
They're not helping. Yeah, Japan didn't want to
during
come
World War
over.
II, go ahead, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say during World War II, when Japan was thinking about invading the United States, I forget what the name of the general was, but he said it would be suicide to invade the U.S. because there'd be a gun behind every blade of grass.
Yeah.
And that was back then. You know, we have 5 times the amount of guns in circulation that we even had then.
Right.
So it would be pretty insane for any country to, think about invading us.
And then when the rules got more strict, there was, I don't remember, was it last year or year before, but the new applications for concealed gun carry spiked like crazy. And majority of them, 2 years ago, majority of them were women. And they felt vulnerable. They felt like, well, I'm going to need protection. I just always ask that to all law-abiding gun owners to know where the gun is properly stored and practice. Please practice. Like when you don't have the car around and then you don't drive for 20 years and then you decide to get behind the wheel, right?
Absolutely.
So,
no, train. I mean, and I like what you said about, women getting their concealed carry. I always tell, people that, especially women, if they're against guns, I always say, hey, gun rights are women's rights. I was like, imagine you're in a dark garage, parking garage. You can level that playing field with a guy who's 6'5" trying to assault you by knowing how to keep and use a gun. And just like anything, I had a ton of friends. So I used to live out on a farm and I would invite my friends out to come shoot for range day. A lot of them had never shot a gun and a lot of them were very anti-gun. And I said, hey, let me one-on-one with you. I'm going to show you what to do. Within an hour, they told me, they said, wow, I just feel so much more comfortable around a gun. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, because it's just a piece of machine. It's like a car. You were scared to drive a car at first, but after you drove it for a while, you know what you're doing with it. And, it's just a tool.
It's a tool. Like before I would unscrew lug nuts by hand, but now I got this cool battery-operated impact driver.
Well, then that's how it happens. The fear is from discomfort. If you're not familiar with it. And again, like you say, practice. That's going to make it, first of all, it's going to make you more responsible, but it's going to make you feel safer.
And danger. I mean, the tool has danger, obviously,
Respect it, yeah.
Just like a vehicle, when a new driver gets behind the wheel, there's that fear behind, you're operating a machine at various speeds. You're hoping your senses are, react faster to brake on time, be aware of your peripheral vision, and just pre-plan, see ahead. I always try to, anytime I had a friend or someone I was teaching to drive, I said, you already know what's happening in front of you. It's like a muscle memory. Look ahead of that car. Are they braking up ahead? Look ahead of that turn, be prepared for that, because what you already saw, it kind of like registers like a memory. Your mind, like on a motorcycle, when you ride a motorcycle.
When you drive the motorcycle?
I corrected myself. When you ride a motorcycle, when you lean into that turn, you're not thinking about that turn. You're looking at where the turn ends. And that's how you properly ride the motorcycle. You don't think about right in that moment where you are, because that is already registered in your head. You already know when you're going to come back up, but you need to see ahead. So it's kind of the same thing with vehicles and guns. My biggest fear with carrying a gun would be shooting a bystander, right? Like I've researched what is the best ammo that's been tested, Jill tested, FBI tested in their labs. What is the best round that stops within that 10 to 12 inches so that it does not.
Talking about going through people.
Yeah, yeah. In the self-defense situation, you obviously want to use a hollow point round to make sure that round stops inside the body of the attacker and does not exit. And so for a while, I was training how to defend myself. First thing, like if the attacker wants to grab me or whatever, I'd like to kind of go back a little bit, maybe knee down and shoot at an upper angle, just in case I either missed or the bullet went through him or it just hit his jacket. The projectile of that bullet is an upright as opposed to plain level where they could be bystanders, right? So I've practiced a lot of draws with a single hand. So if an attacker is attacking me, I can stop him for a second at least and do that kind of like a wheel over clothing with the draw to practice one-hand draw. Those seconds really count in a life or death situation. And especially if you're in the place where you're inside a home or a room and you're trapped. And we don't have a castle law here in New York. So if you have a means of escaping,
egress,
that's the priority. And that's fine with me. Like, I don't want to take anyone's life. Bad guy, not a bad guy. If I can avoid it, I'll avoid it. But if it comes to the point where, well, it's my life or your life, I want to live, you know?
Yeah. Well, if my family's in my house and I have somebody breaking in, I mean, sorry, they're going away.
Different story. Yeah.
Well, you guys probably have castle law, right?
You know what? That's funny. I really don't even know if Illinois does. Well, I'll tell you one thing about me.
Illinois, yes.
So I'm a libertarian, I guess, by nature. I'm not Republican, Democrat. I used to be more. I'm right-leaning libertarian, I would say. But I'm also a fan of. I'm going to do what I have to do regardless of the law because I'm a sensible human. So, I mean, one of my sayings is I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. And that goes for any situation. So, I mean, I'm going to do what I'm going to do and I'll accept those consequences. But at the same time, when it comes to things like, risking my family's life, I don't care what the law is.
Yeah. In the right world, that'll all settle itself out anyway.
Exactly.
It's going to be a longer process, but still.
Yeah, I think in that situation, when you're defending your life or your loved ones, you forget about the laws. That's not the priority.
So you're also go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
You're also into, I think prepping that type of lifestyle.
Yes. Yeah. My the Army kind of helped me get into that. Just from the type of job I was doing as a scout, we're always in the woods, always sleeping in ditches and building our own forts in the woods to, spending a week or two at a time out there. And after doing that for a while, you start to learn tricks from old timers out there. And then I started buying books and, listening to podcasts. And I don't get out as much as I'd like to do that sort of stuff, just my day-to-day job and family and everything. But I'm become more of a practical prepper.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, in my work truck, whenever I'm driving across country, I have what I call a get-home bag. It's basically a full-size ruck sack. Like it's one of those hiking bags that sits high up on your back. And I have spent years picking and determining the type of equipment and items that go in it that could help me. Let's say an EMP went off, which actually is more of a threat than people think. People hear EMP, oh, that's conspiracy theorists. An EMP would cripple our entire country. Right. And it's crazy. But if anything crazy like that happened and I was, 4 states away, what do I need to get back home to my family? And so I carry that with me whenever I'm gone. I have a gun on me. I have, spare magazines because you would want that, especially if you're having to, hump it all the way back home, however many miles it is. So practical prepping is important. Learning how to garden. Me and my wife have slowly been teaching each other over the past, I'd probably say 5 years. We have a little garden in our backyard. Each year we try new stuff. We're not great at it yet. I mean, we'll grow good tomatoes, peppers, stuff like that. but slowly teaching ourselves how to like can food, preserve food, and just taking it slow. That way, if an emergency did happen, we're not completely new to it.
Yeah, you get something, you get a couple days out of it, or a week or so.
Yeah,
you're not really going.
Yeah, and it's really fun too. It gets you outside. It gets you. It's good bonding time. Honestly, me and my wife, when we're out in the garden, it's a great time. And so I encourage everybody to just learn. I mean, my next step is getting chickens. My wife's already dreading it because she knows I'm going to get obsessive about it. But chickens are probably next.
Yeah.
I think chickens and jackrabbits.
Yes,
jackrabbit.
Yeah, man.
I would say
they reproduce. They reproduce like crazy. So you'll have meat and you'll have eggs.
Mm-hmm.
I keep like a small bag in the car, so enough for 48 hours to survive.
Yeah.
Like if
and that's good. That's more than most people, though.
Yeah.
Like you would think everybody should have a small emergency bag in the car, which I don't know. I don't know if people are even taught that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Most of the stuff you need for 48 hours, you already have. Extra clothes, or maybe you throw some fucking granola bars or something in there, like whatever it is, dry matches and shit like this. Like
couple bars, a lighter match, water,
a blanket or something. Just you got to switch out the perishables every once in a
water.
while. Really, you have it.
You can even go with like a compact first aid kit too, like basic emergencies, maybe gauze, band-aids.
Mm-hmm. One thing I would say is keep a good pair of either running shoes or hiking boots. Mm-hmm. So like, let's say you work in an office and you got to drive, an hour to work every day. You don't want to be having to walk in your or in your dress shoes, 10 miles to get home. So I keep a pair of, a nice broken in army boots in my bag. And that helps me, that gives me peace of mind that I know I'm not going to put them on and they're just going to cause me to have blisters immediately. They're already broken in and good to go.
Well, you probably got like a pair of Jesus sandals or something, right?
I got my survival boots now.
Those things.
But you know what?
It's a piece of bark with a shoestring.
Hold on. Office shoes don't have to be uncomfortable. If you're wearing uncomfortable office shoes, that's your problem.
But not like 10 miles worth of walking or.
These are comfortable enough.
Waterproof are those?
They're not fucking
That's
waterproof.
Right. They're not waterproof.
So aren't yours.
Not the ones I have on.
Yeah.
But the ones I have in my bug out bag, I do.
Okay. Speaking of bug out bags, you got bug out bags like at home?
Not really, because my plan isn't to bug out. My neighborhood that I'm in, I know and that's one prepping thing I've written about before is getting to know your neighbors is super important. Now, in New York, maybe in New York City, I'm not sure which part of New York you guys are in.
We're 6 hours away from New York. We're closer. We're closer to Canada than we are New York City.
Well, then that's better. But like, if you can reasonably get to know your neighbors, I encourage everybody to do so. A lot of people are like, I don't want to get to know my neighbors. It keeps things copacetic. I get that, but I'm also kind of against that. Like, you can have a working relationship with your neighbor, just like you do with a coworker at work or something like that. I'm friendly with my neighbors. I know their names. We see each other outside. We'll talk a little bit. We know enough about each other to gauge, that we like each other or not. And that would come really into play in a survival situation. Yeah. And I think where I'm at, where my family's at, we are safer bugging in than bugging out. So most of my preps are meant for just staying here.
Yeah. Well, there's 100 situations, right? I mean,
yeah.
And
that was going to be one thing I wanted to bring up too, is people like to prep for specific situations. Prep for generality.
Yeah.
What's the core that you could use in a nuclear situation, an EMP situation, a hyperinflation situation, an invasion situation? You're going to need food, water, medical, shelter, tools. Tools is another thing people don't think about. Yeah. You need a shovel, buckets, things like that. Just the basics. And that's going to help you out in the majority of every situation that could happen.
Yeah, tools, that's a good point. Tools is important.
Especially these multi-tools. Those are pretty decent.
I try to keep a set of tools in every vehicle for basic repair. So
that's good.
Changing tires, which is important. Repairing, changing your alternator, So you're alternating your shits to
fan
bed.
belt, all this kind of shit.
You can take it out of another car and put it in yours.
That's one thing I regret. I am mechanically handicapped. I am a terrible mechanic, and I'm not a carpenter either. I'm a tech guy and I'm a gun guy, but I really wish I was handy with tools the way that some of my friends are.
Yeah, I think like working on general skills, build a shelter, fix things, right? But I think when you said earlier, prep for like the general disaster, I think maybe every person can look at their demographic or like their location and what are the hazards within that location? Are there
geographically
are there power plants that can something can go wrong? Is there a nuclear plant? Is there what's around you that's danger and that's like priority? So
things like us, we get a fuck ton of snow. But someone in someone in southern Georgia's not. They don't fucking need that.
But I never thought the kind of flooding and mudslides and the disaster they had in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected something like that there.
It's hard to prep for some sort of nuclear issue though. I don't know how we would do that.
Well, if there's some iodine pills, if there's a way to distance, like which direction you're gonna
with the wind and everything.
Which if that happens, which direction do I escape? Do I go direction the wind's gonna carry the,
right
chemicals, or do I kind of go south? Which way do I go? Evacuation routes. I guess like things like that, floods. Based on.
And with all these scenarios, like my wife sometimes she would get upset because I bring it up a lot. Like if we have our close friends over, I'm always like, hey guys, let's talk about our plan. Like, where are we all going to? And she's like, why are you always talking about this? And I'm like, well, it's fun for me.
Yeah.
But also I think it's important that people at least run through the scenarios in their head at least once. Because if you run through it in your head, or you talk about it with your spouse, or you talk about it with a friend, and my lovely wife's bringing me a new beer.
Another 9.7?
Another Madagascar.
Yeah, why is it? She drank half of it. It's only half full.
No, she's on the Bud Light tonight.
Okay.
But what I was saying was actually, what was I saying?
About talking to your friends, just get them thinking about it.
Yeah. So running through a scenario, no matter how ridiculous or niche it might be, that at least prepares you for if it does happen. You'll be like, I've already ran this through in my mind. Like I know what I'm gonna do, instead of, oh my gosh, I'm in this situation for the first time and I've never thought about this. Yeah. So it's good to have fun with it. Like run through scenarios. It doesn't make you paranoid. It really does. It's more pragmatic than it is paranoia.
Yeah. Right.
You'll eventually kind of develop sort of like a muscle memory. And when you're in a situation where you don't know how to resolve it, you will be in that shock period longer. And then when you snap out of it, you're like, okay, well, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Versus, you try this once a month, once every 3 months or whatever, you at least have some basic. Like if something happens right now, I know what I do. I go home, I know exactly what goes in my truck, and I know exactly where I'm going. So that's not a bad thing to think about.
There's way less productive things that you could be thinking about and or doing. For me, it's an exciting hobby. I like to think about it and do this sort of stuff. And my wife calls me a nerd and whatever. But at the same time, I'm like, you call me a nerd now until you need it.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Nerd is not a bad word. Damn it!
No.
This is one of those things that you hope you never have to use, but the one time you use it, it's priceless.
But you can try that. So we go camping often, and I enjoy it. That's the way for me to bring.
Roman brings ether and Vaseline in his camp bag.
Yeah, anal beads too. And then you lucky I'm not telling you what goes on in your tent.
It's the best sleep I've ever had.
Woke up a little sore.
Yeah. Speed bumps.
So when you go camping, that's the time when it's also fun to try those things. Like you're going camping, you're packing the car anyways. Let's see how fast can you pack it, right? You get to the campsite. What do I like to do with my son? I would say, okay, no matches. We brought some things to start a fire. Let's try to start a fire.
A bow drill? You can use a bow drill?
I've never used the bow drill, but I use where you scrape the stick with like
magnesium with the
no, it's wood against wood creates heat.
That's what a bow drill does.
Friction. I know, but I've never had a luck to get the bow drill steady. Maybe I was using.
Gary could probably fucking do it right now.
I am not good with the bow drill. What I do is I strategically place fire starting material and kits in all my gear.
Yeah.
I got it in my car. I got it in my basement. I got some out in the garage. I have accelerant because if I carry a little thing of like butane.
Yep.
In one of my in a lot of my bags, and I carry that because if I'm in a survival situation, I'm not trying to start a fire with flint. I'm trying to spray butane and light it with a lighter and just have flame right when I need it. Right. Now, I also have the flint and I also have other means to do it, but I stock up on the more modern practical things first.
Yeah. And that's the other thing to mention. The people that build these bags or whatever you want to do, I mean, you put some time into, you put a little research into it and you can kind of, put some time into putting this together, but then it's done. Like the time, you don't have to keep doing it. It's not eating your time every day or every week or every month. It's just
it's done at that time. But then later you think about, what would be a good idea to have? I need to have this thing in there.
But that's just like a little add-on. Like I'd like pepper on my steak, but
another thing is I'm saying this because I have my own go bag, and if you don't go back and check,
my go bag is better than your go bag.
Good for you.
Let's compare. Let's compare.
Gary's got a huge sack. He's already told us he's got a huge sack.
I'm like a Santa. I throw that thing over my shoulder. So you don't go back to that bag once in a while and check the inventory. You forget what's in it.
Yeah. No, but that's what I was going to say. My wife hates it. I probably do that once a quarter. Mm-hmm. Because I'll be thinking in my head, I'll be like, oh, yeah, where's that thing? I said, oh, yeah, I got it in my bag. But then I think to myself, which pouch is it in? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, my God, need to take everything out and repack it all again. That way I know where it's at. Yeah. And then I'll do that about once a quarter just to remind myself of what exactly I have in there. That way I can reference it and go back to it in a moment instead of wondering.
What would be a cool diagram to have is like just like an outline of your bag and do a section 1, 2,
like
3
on a business card.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Each pocket is numbered, and then on the right of that, number 1 contains these items. Number 2 contains. So that'd be something cool to like laminate it. Well, not laminate it because if you change it, then you got to change that again. But either way,
I would say one thing that happens, and I learned this whenever I was in the Army, is you can plan a pretty picnic, but you can't predict the weather.
Yeah,
and the weather is. When you're out there, like actually on the move and you're needing something regularly, you'll find out real quick if pocket B is annoying and it really needs to go in pocket A.
Right. Yeah.
And the only way you can figure that out is if you're using it and learning.
But at least you have it.
Now, like right now, yes, at least you have it. And that's the most important thing. But you're going to end up changing pockets eventually for sure.
It's true. And when you know where stuff is, you spend less time going through your bag looking for it. I did. I hiked part of a Appalachian Trail in like March in Maine. And there's like 8 feet of fucking snow on the ground. So it's snowshoes and everything. But when I packed my backpack, because we were going to be hiking so much, everything had to be weighed. I had to weigh how much toothpaste I'm bringing. I had to buy special titanium canteens for cooking and how much fuel I'm bringing for cooking. These things. Why
did you have to weigh this stuff?
You're hiking miles and miles.
You're trying to like. There's no one saying you have to wait. Like there's a fucking weight.
No, ounces equal pounds, and that's what we always said in the Army. Because the Army almost always wanted to give us more and more equipment out in the field. And at a certain point, we were like, listen, you're giving us too much. We're out there trying to ruck 10 miles. And you're like, carry this. Oh, it's no problem. It's just a small thing. No, ounces equal pounds.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So some people go as far as cutting like the toothbrush in half. Like they go to very detailed. They'll spend thousands of dollars on a sleeping bag that's like super, super light. I didn't go that far, but in my mind, like, okay, we got 26 miles to hike in snowshoes, deep snow. I don't know what the weather condition is going to be, so we had to prepare for like negative 40, negative 50 degrees. At one point, we found a lean-to where we stayed the night, and when we woke up in the morning, the entire lean-to was covered in like icicles because from our breath, and there was a lot of condensation. So when the sunlight hits it, it's like a La La Land. It's like your lean-to is like bedazzled or something. It's like shiny everywhere. Everything, sleeping bags, everything. So quickly, you build a fire in front of the lean-to, generate some heat, and hang your stuff to dry for a little bit before you hike again. But yeah, what I was saying is basically when you go out doing outdoor activities, that's a fun time to practice some of these, survival skills, something you read in the book, something you're talking to somebody about. And it's fun. Like, and if you have kids, it's a fun thing to learn. Just even maybe it's a useless skill you're going to have, but once in a while you could be like, hey, I know how to do that.
So yeah, Roman mentions, writing books. And I know you do that as well.
Yes. A little bit of writing here and there. I don't know. I think I might have froze a little bit. Can you hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you're there.
All right, cool. No, were you saying about writing?
I said, Roman mentioned reading this in books and some of these ideas we can get for, preparing yourself. But I know you also write a little bit, but I didn't know what that was about. What subjects, if it's a prepping piece or something else.
Well, it started out. I wrote some prepping articles and like what you should have, what people should bring, but then it kind of branched out into short stories. I'll do fictional short stories. There's actually a website called Readsy, and they do these contests, these short story contests, and they'll give you a prompt. It'll be like, write a story about somebody who has a magical power, and it has to be 1,000 to 2,000 words or something like that. And so I'll do these monthly contests, and I'll also write like op-eds. I'll write articles on just something random that comes to my mind. I'll be sleeping and next to my wife, and I'll wake up and be like, I'm going to write a little thing about that. I think it'll be fun just to explore that idea. And, my website, I don't sell anything on it. I don't do anything. It's kind of just like a self-promoting, like a pet project that I have. And I don't know why I do it, but I just enjoy writing articles. I've written a couple things for like smaller publications out there. But really it's just a fun idea, and hopefully people enjoy what I write.
Anything's been published that people can find?
Nothing that's, well, if you go to Readsy, Readsy.com, they have like contest stories. All mine are on that website that I submitted to them. I also have a handful of things that I published on my website, Gary-Phipps.com. And it's under articles and stories. I write about everything from like hotel deaths to that feeling you get growing up as a young man when it's time to leave the nest and go, like your call to adventure. Like, do you guys remember that? Like growing up and you reach a certain age where it's like, it's time I have to get out there and do something. Like you almost feel like a pull.
You spread your wings.
And I was, yeah. And so I thought about that, and I was like, I want to write about that. I was like, nobody talks about that. And I think it's very different for guys than it is for women. Like, yeah, women have a need to go out there and pursue their own passions, but something about being like a young man and having to go out and prove yourself it's all I know. So I was like, I want to write about that. And, hopefully people can relate.
Yeah, like you said earlier, the adventure part of it is maybe what sparks the curiosity and fun part. You know what? You're drinking beer, and I need your refill. Mine's empty.
Yeah, he's on like number.
I need you to grab one. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm on number 2 of a 9.3 alcohol volume beer.
So the website's Gary-PHIPPS.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's fine. So yeah, I just want to make sure people.
Yeah, I got articles on there. I got just a little bit about myself, kind of a short synopsis of my life story on one of the pages, and some photos that I've taken in the past. My website needs a ton of work. I run the entire thing, and I've just been piecing it together as I go. And any podcast that I'm on, I put it on the website as well, under my podcast section. So yeah, eventually I want to do something else with it. Maybe sell T-shirts or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That other website archives the stories, so you can like go back and read your stories.
Reedsy, you're talking about Reedsy?
Reedsy.
Yeah. So Reedsy. Yeah, REEDSY. And now it's Reedsy prompts is where you go if you want to like see the prompts and submit to the stories. But I believe the Reedsy website itself, you can probably search it. They have like 4 different kinds of sections to their website. But if you're just like an amateur writer and you just need ideas, or you just want to see where you stand against other writers like yourself, it's a really easy platform. And to submit a story, I believe it's $5 to submit a story for the contest. And if you win $200. And if you lose, well, guess what? Your story gets published on their website. Right. Win-win.
You ever had ideas for a book?
I've thought about it in the past. I've thought about, I wouldn't say my life story is, super, like it's going to be a blockbuster movie or nothing like that. But like I grew up as a pastor's kid. Whenever I was a young kid, my aunt and uncle adopted me. They were pastors. My mom and dad were on drugs and alcoholics. And, growing up in that environment was different. And then I ended up joining the Army. That was different. Getting out, I became a technical recruiter, worked in a high-rise building in St. Louis wearing, a suit and tie. That was different. Having a family, 3 kids and a wife, that's different. So just my whole journey, I think, is pretty interesting. And I thought about doing kind of a fictional autobiography. So like kind of taking my story and making it more interesting. And I don't know. I figured I could maybe do something with that, but we'll see if that ever actually happens.
Take the life story and add fiction to it, and make it interesting or something that would like
most good writers, comedians, they pull stuff from their actual own life experience. Right. That's what makes it unique. You can't compete against unique. Yeah. That's one thing I always tell people. You can't copy it. It's your thing. Nobody else is doing it, hopefully. But I don't know. I like to write about things that are interesting to me that I think are maybe thought provoking. A lot of the times whenever I write, I'm kind of a psychopath on social media. I post a lot of crazy stuff. My friends and family are like, "Why are you like this?" And I'm like, "I don't care. I'm just me." If I think there's something important that I want the general public to know, I'm gonna say it. And I'll stand by it. I'm not being a jerk. I'm just like, listen, I know it's unpopular, but this is the thing.
Sure.
like
what?
Well,
I'm curious now.
like gun stuff, I'll talk about guns. I'll talk about gun stuff. I talk about, I'll get into politics, and I've actually recently lost friends over political stuff. And it's sad because, like I said before, I'm more of a libertarian. I'm not Republican, Democrat. I make fun of both sides where it's appropriate. I'll point out the hypocrisy of both sides, and it kind of rubs both friend groups that I have the wrong way, because I only have a small majority that kind of think the same way that I do, and the other majority is left or right. And they both get offended by what I say, but I'm like, nothing I'm saying is wrong. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not jumping on your bandwagon, and they think I am sometimes because I make fun of the other side. They'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you're with us," and I'm like, actually, no, screw your guy too because of this. You know what I mean? And you don't have to pick a side.
You don't have to pick a side, and it's free to speak your opinion.
And you can be cordial about it. People can,
Yeah.
not have to argue about
I
it.
bet you.
I love having good debates.
Yeah.
I'm more than open to having intelligent, friendly debates. But the problem is most people aren't.
Yeah, the argumentative piece is just,
Like-
it's a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
I think any part of the argument defeats their point of view or their belief, then they get defensive, as opposed to saying like, well, why do you think that? So as opposed to having like a friendly conversation back and forth, because everything the right says is not 100% correct, and everything the left says not 100% correct. And I believe
In fact, both sides are probably almost 100% wrong all the time.
Yes.
I believe
And one of my favorite sayings is, if you believe 100% of your side and 0% of the other side, you're being manipulated.
yeah.
Like, I mean, that's it should be an obvious thing, but I unfortunately have tons of friends who are very, very brainwashed by their political party, and it's sad to see. I try to break them of that, being like, hey, look at this, look at that, and they almost like it. I mean, it feels good to be a part of a team or a tribe. That's just how we are as humans. Yeah. But I think you got to be open-minded to at least consider having your own mind changed. If not, you're just going to be stuck in a rut.
Well, mainstream media is sort of this poison that people believe. We talk about it all the time. People believe what they hear instantly. I mean, in America, for instance, everything's quick and rapid. So you want to get an answer, you want to hear it, and it's done. Like there's nobody there's a lot of people that don't want to put in the extra effort to sort of research and vet the information you're just being told.
Or you'll be called that you're wrong for researching and vetting it on your own because you don't trust the experts.
Right.
And it's like, come on.
But look where the experts have. I mean, it's proven now. Like you could see just alone with our last president, all the lies on how he was doing so great, and he's got so much vigor. Like that's been proven wrong. I mean, they were just lying to you. I mean, I get it. Yeah. That's what happened. But
when they use that term, you don't trust the experts. Well,
who says they're experts, right?
The same side would not trust the experts if the expert is speaking against their agenda. So it's like, you will also not believe the expert because it goes against what you believe. And, otherwise you'll be open to accepting the fact. And I think no matter if people would just agree and disagree on politics and policies and stuff like that, but in the end, be able to put that aside and say, I would still help you when you're in need of help.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, can you imagine you need help and the EMT pulls up? They're like, are you Republican or Democrat? Republican. Fuck you. We're out. So
have you seen that movie? It just came out. Oh man, it's got those actors. There's like a Civil War, and it's called Civil War. That movie, Civil War.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
It had that guy with the sunglasses, and they got the AR, and he goes, "Well, what kind of American are you?"
Yeah. I saw that.
Talking to those people, and that seems crazy.
It is crazy.
But honestly, in the not too distant future, if politics in this division continues like that, I mean, that could be a reality. Yeah, you could run into somebody, a military member or somebody, and they'll be like, whoa, I'm American. Well, what kind of American are you?
Yeah.
Like, which side are you on?
I believe there should be differing opinions. There should be at least two sides,
yes,
or many sides. All of that is okay. It's how you interact with each other and then react to whatever you're talking about that is the problem. This division is just terrible for everybody.
Yeah. The opposite views need to be there, because we need to check ourselves, right? Because if one side dominates and says this is how everything is, then you lose freedom. I think you lose.
Well, it's like political apartheid.
You lose control.
Yeah,
and then you are easily casted away as soon as you question it. I think religious people who have friends who are atheists need to be able to get along. People who are Republicans and Democrats need to get along. I always think of that way. If you break down the side of the road, or you're choking, are they going to ask you, well, what American are you, or what is your political belief, or what's your religion? Like,
well, how can you feel good about yourself if Gary is a Democrat, he's on the side of the road, and I'm a Republican, and I ask you need help, but then I say I'm not helping you because you're a Democrat. Like how
you see a Biden sticker or something?
How does someone feel good about them? How would someone feel good about themselves doing that? Like I could not help someone. I don't give a shit if you're gay or straight or not or any political party. I just don't know how you could do that as a person.
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, unless you're a complete shitbag and I think you're gonna fucking kill me, then I'm not helping you.
Yeah, But if and you can joke about it too. Like, let's say you mentioned Biden sticker. Like, all right, let's help you, and you can crack a joke about it. But it's like you're still there. You still care about humanity. You still care about this person, a stranger you don't know, and you're willing to go out of your way to help.
Well, I think you guys remember what politics was like. I was pretty young, but like in the early 90s, the difference between Republican and Democrat wasn't as extreme as it is now. It was just like you were at a party. Oh, you believe that? Okay, cool. Like, people would poke fun and joke, but it wasn't like you're the enemy. Like, we're against each other. And I'll tell you right now, like, for instance, I had a couple friends. They were a gay couple, and one of them was friends with my wife for a long time. And we've been friends with them forever. Went camping with them, hung out with them, everything. After Trump won this last election, they got real quiet because they were really pro, they're Democrats and everything. And I'm me. I've always been me. I'm posting the same stuff I always have. They cut us off completely.
Yeah.
They just stopped being our friend. My wife didn't do anything. It was one of her best friends, and they just cut us off because they believed that because we're not 100% on their side, we're attacking their freedoms for what they believe in. Right. And I said, how is that the case? I was like, I didn't even vote for Trump. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are you talking about? But that's how delusional people can get with politics. Right. And it literally ruins friendships. It ruins families. And I'm like, why be like that? Like, I love you like you are. Don't hate me because I'm not 100% on your side.
That's right.
Yeah. And if you're attacking their, what do they say? Freedom or?
Yeah. Well, they think, they say basically because I'm not 100% against Trump, that I'm against, maybe gay rights.
Yeah. Well,
and I'm like, how is that?
But then when they say that, they're attacking your freedom of speech. So
exactly,
if they react that way, then your freedom gets attacked as well. And sometimes, maybe if you're upset with your friend or you cut ties because of political beliefs, I hope at some point, you grow up and be like, hey, that was kind of fucking stupid. Can we just be friends? I
hope that's the case because we really enjoyed them. They're really good friends if they listen to this.
Yeah.
You guys are great. I don't know what I did to make you mad, but, come back. We like hanging out with you.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. I mean, I don't understand how you throw away everything you had based on one other thing that happened. I mean, if that was the case, none of us would be married. Like everybody gets in an argument with their spouse.
And something that
they're just gonna throw it away and you're just fucking done. I mean,
and something you have no control over, really.
Or that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, why does it matter if? Okay, you know what? You're right. I hate everything about Trump. Can we be buddies again? I mean, what the fuck? What changed?
I know. Yeah. And I even wrote him. And because he kind of went cold silent, and I was like, "Hey, man, what's going on? I miss you guys' friendship. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings." I was like, let me know. Didn't respond. Didn't do nothing because they're brainwashed, and it's sad.
Yeah, that is. It's like manipulating a kid. It's easy to manipulate a kid because you tell them a story that will make them happy and they like it. And we're all for protecting gay rights, and we don't want anyone's freedom to be taken away.
And I'll even listen to you. Like if they're your friends, like have that conversation. Tell me why you're so mad at me, and then just kind of figure it out. But then you hug it out and you have a dinner, some beer, and you.
Or maybe you find if you start talking to each other and maybe just in a peaceful manner, just talk to each other, maybe you'll find that you have so much in common. It's just those few things maybe are not the same.
Yeah, like, I mean, maybe you like onions and they don't. I mean, now you're gonna fucking hate each other. I mean,
Yeah. Well, they've decided to draw a line in the sand. I think their feelings got hurt when Trump won. They were all about Kamala and what's his name winning, and when that didn't happen, they were like defense mode.
Yeah.
They were like, and it's sad to see, and I don't know what to do, but at the same time, I'm not going to change how I believe. I mean, if I, with them being my friend, they've been, Democrats in their way forever. I never expected them to change a way that they think to be my friend. So now having them want me to do that for them seems like, hold on. So you're expecting me to change myself so you'll just remain my friend? Sorry, I'm not going to do that.
But not only that, you didn't expect them to do that, and then you even reached out and tried to repair.
Yes,
and still nothing. So now it's I think what the result is what the result's going to be.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. But I mean, just be a good person. That's all you can do. Kill them with kindness. Yeah. And that's the best way, I think, to handle people like that.
Yeah. I'm hoping with more independent media and more honest reporting, this divide can slowly go away, because divide's created when a large exposure has control, right? So if I have control of all major media outlets, it's easy for me to manipulate a large group.
Oh yeah,
well, it's follow the money, right? I mean, you got these people that are lying, but you got people telling them what to say based on the corporate sponsorships or whatever. I think, like, you got the independent people, like, I don't need to appease anybody because I own it. Like, it's mine. I could do what I want. I don't have to say what these shareholders want and like all that stuff. So
and more people are, I think, seeing that. I mean, obviously, a lot of people listen to Rogan and they talk about it, and that's his magic sauce. Is really what it is. Nobody controls what he says.
Yeah.
Or what he does, and at least that we know of. And I heard people talking. These leftists were like, "Where's our Joe Rogan? Where's our version of that?" And
he was their version. He was their version like 3 years ago.
He was. Yeah, he got red pilled. Yeah. But I
think he still is.
I think he's in the middle.
He says he is. If he hasn't said it out loud, but I believe he's more libertarian than
I believe it. I believe it. But I think
he's got a lot of leftist views and whatever, but still he loves guns. He loves freedom. I mean, come on.
I think his views are pretty neutral. And I think why he's being labeled more right is because of those few things.
Well, because he had Trump on his podcast. That's why
he had.
Yeah. He tried to have Kamala on, but
there's rules associated with that. Yeah.
My point was the left has too many stringent rules to where if you don't walk lock and step with everything that the majority of the left believes, they'll reject you.
Right.
And you're no longer on the left. They push you more center to right. And then it's like, why would you push me away? I'm trying to be nice just because I don't believe in 100% of what you're thinking. And that's what happened with me and my Democrat friends, and I'm like, why are you pushing me away? I was like, this doesn't make your side look appealing. If anything, this makes me want to go more right than anything, So anytime you're arguing against somebody or you're trying to convince somebody, you don't want to come at them hot. You want to come at them appealingly, convince them. Don't demand it.
Right.
Or don't argue against them, but argue about an issue. So I wouldn't want to argue well, you shouldn't be that way. You shouldn't do this. I would be more like, well, it's not fair that we all have to do this, or it doesn't include everyone if this is the only way people have to act or behave. Like, I hate cancel culture. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, why do people get to control because you said something that somebody doesn't agree with? Well, okay, well, don't agree with him then. But why create these groups to go and destroy someone's business that creates jobs for thousands of people? Just you're affecting people. Like, you think you're doing something good by cancel culture. It's like, okay, if you don't like what he said, then fine, don't eat his food, their food, or don't buy their clothes. That's fine, but why create this
false narrative? Yeah.
Not only that, but why create this like exposure of like, okay, everybody, let's make sure that this person gets fired. Like, it doesn't.
It becomes cool to hate on a person or thing because your team is against it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look at me, I'm drawing swastikas on Teslas. See how good of a Democrat I am.
Yeah.
You know, like that's silly.
Or some people, that's for them to be noticed or have the loud voice and be heard, and just like, you're destroying other people's life. They didn't destroy your life because you didn't like what they said. But now what you're doing to them is way out of scale. Like, I don't know.
I forget which. I think it was George Washington that said he had a famous speech or a letter that he wrote where he talked about how a two-party system would literally destroy our country. He was against a two-party system. He didn't want parties running against each other. It should have been independents running against each other.
Was it
forever?
Was the phrase a house divided within itself will collapse or something like that?
I think that was Lincoln, I believe.
Oh, Lincoln? Okay.
But Washington did have one that he talked about before. It was more in depth. It wasn't just a short quote. I forget what it was, but I mean, we were warned about this multiple times from our founding fathers of how this would be a bad thing. And it sucks because, like I was saying, I'm a libertarian. The libertarian, to get into the ballots in all 50 states is extremely hard to do. To get on the debate stage is extremely hard to do for a third party. Like, literally, the two parties have almost a monopoly on that debate stage. It's hard to get anybody else up.
It happened with Gary Johnson.
And yes, yeah, like Gary Johnson. That was kind of I think a fluke almost, but like I voted for Jo Jorgensen a couple years ago, and she was a libertarian candidate. And I'm a big fan of voting with my morals than I am with the lesser of two evils. And I don't care, I know they're probably going to lose, but at the same time, I'm not going to be responsible for, this jerk that gets, voted in that does this terrible stuff, no matter who they are. Yeah. That's just my view. But they need to change things because they know that two-party system, they can control it. If they get a really pragmatic, well-spoken person with these views that the majority of the country can agree on and steal these voters away from the left and the right, it'll be problematic for them. And they like having this division because they can play off that. They've done it for decades now. So it's like, what do we do as the individual voter to change that?
Well, and there's nothing we can do because once you get to like a Gary Johnson, all they do is change the regulations now so they don't allow you on the stage. But what you need probably is a president, either blue or red, to switch their party affiliation while in office to get some notoriety for,
that'd be nice.
for a third party system.
How would that work?
I think you can do whatever
you would have to get rid of PACs though. You would have to get rid of all these different PACs that are donating all these millions of dollars, make that illegal ahead of time. I mean, a lot of the stuff that Trump's doing right now, he was talking about making it so members of Congress can't, trade stocks.
Yep.
That's great. What we need to also do? Term limits for everyone.
Yeah.
And that would fix things as well, but they don't want to do that. They don't want to let go of that power, left or right. And that's scary.
Yeah, I call it a rigged game. You could be you could be a politician with good intent, good, morals and work really hard to get to that position. But once you get in that game, it's either you play the game or you're out. And I think it's simple as that.
And the longer you stay, the more corrupt you are.
And then you eventually get the disease and you infect it, and there's just no way out. The only way out is getting out of the politics. But then you think about everything you've invested to get to that point. Do you just let it go?
I think Gary's frozen. I hope.
Yeah, I was for a second.
Oh, okay.
I can hear you.
There you go. So, and I've looked at some politicians that, kind of like just to see what their background was, where they come from. I know this is going to be crazy for Frank maybe to hear, but like where A or C comes from, like what she did to get to where she is, and she probably had good intent. But I think once she got into politics, she was automatically poisoned by this.
Why is this tough for me to hear?
I don't know. Just I guessed it.
This she got good boobs.
But you catch these politicians that when what their belief is and how they act, it's just so hypocritical. And
it's all of them, right? It's not.
Yeah, it's just like, well, you say this thing. It's like Newsom, like, oh, everybody stay at home, and then he goes to a French restaurant. Like, fuck you, man. Like it's stuff like that, or
someone like Pelosi, like she's got these stock things that she's always up and she's always win. It's all just a fucking corrupt system. Like, but term limits would solve that, right? But
well, and like AOC pushing the Green Deal, but you driving a suburban V8 and you flying these planes. Like, where's your fucking Tesla or electric car?
Right.
Just shit like that. Like if you're gonna preach practice, right?
Like I want Bernie Sanders' 32-hour work week. That'd be cool.
I thought he just said he bought like his 32-hour exercise.
Well, the people can see through it.
Sorry.
No, people can see through it, and that's what politicians think. Americans are dumber than what they are. I mean, they can see the bull crap, that's being said. And yeah, there's a majority of people out there that are just do what their team says. But even those people, they know it's not legit, but they're just going to do it because it's part of their team. And these narcissists become politicians for a reason. I don't think you can be a politician without being a narcissist, at least to a certain degree.
Do you, so Gary, I know the number, I can't remember it, but I think it was recently, 80% of, no, I can't remember, whatever it is, it's like something like 40% or 20% of billionaires own 80% of the stock market. Some number like this. You may not know it. I just heard it, but it's something about just how it's so overwhelming.
I mean that seems about right.
But it's these things, like when you're making a couple $100,000 a year or whatever the salary is, and then all of a sudden these guys are all multimillionaires. Where the fuck did that money come from? Mm-hmm. Like lobbyists and all this other bullshit.
Buying multi-billion-dollar yachts and maintaining them.
Someone's greasing a palm, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, hey Roman.
Oh yeah.
This guy, man. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know.
It is what it is. We can't change it, but we can believe in what we believe in.
Yeah, you can't change it, but make sure your go bag is organized.
Yeah. Oh hell yeah, yeah. I mean, they can't take away what's in here. They can't take away how we treat our neighbors. Mm-hmm. They can't take away a lot of things in our life. And that's what people need to realize is, I don't know if you ever seen that movie Ants or A Bug's Life.
Yep. Yeah.
Either one of those movies, the same message. They're like, you know what? They don't realize all of us together is more powerful than them. Right. And if people keep that in mind, no matter what they do, especially here in America, with us owning guns and being the most gun-owning country in the world, there's not much they can really do to us unless you comply. So I'm a big fan of what I call rebellious defiance. That American, that's what I describe. I've been on a couple podcasts that were overseas. I did a podcast with a guy in Sweden where we talked about gun rights and stuff like that. And they don't get it. Europeans don't really get it. Most of them don't. Of why Americans are like how we are. And I try to tell them it's a rebellious nature that makes us American. You try to tell us a rule, even if it makes sense to some degree, we're going to be like, screw you. Don't tell me to do what you want me to do, or what I want you to do, or whatever. And we're going to do what we want to do. And I feel like people need to hold on to that, because that's like really what makes us like American. I think
the rebellious nature is what beat the British.
Well, a lot of
exactly
a lot of this stuff. So you negotiate a contract. Like say you're in a union contract. you negotiate this, they want to take this. Once you give up something, you're never getting it back.
Yes.
And so, like, if we do that in America, we end up like these European countries. We're never going to get this rebellious defiance back. So you can't give it up now.
There were a lot of laws in place that are still there, never been removed.
Yeah.
One of them was like illegal to have a lobster on your plate in the restaurant.
Right.
Like it's illegal to eat a lobster, and it's still there. I don't think the law has ever been removed. It's just not obviously
Right.
can you enforce it. But I have friends at work who say the dumbest shit, like the stuff they hear about, like from the right, and the things they say. I'm like, you're repeating that almost word to word, the stuff I heard too.
Yeah.
I'm like, can you put your own fucking sense into this? Can you just spend 5 minutes of your own thought and just kind of process it?
Well,
And
critical thinking is a thing that isn't taught anymore.
Right.
It's sad. I preach this to my kids as much as I can. They'll like I remember one of my daughters. She came home one day and she told me how at school in the morning they make them watch the news. And the first thing that I said was, "Which news channel are they making you watch?"
CNN.
And she said CNN. And when she said that, I said, "Well, honey, I want you to make sure that you know not everything that the news says is true, and you need to think critically about everything that's said and not take everything for face value." And, just letting them know that, because they're literally federally funded schools. If they want money from the government, they tell them, hey, you got to do these things. And little things like making them watch CNN in school, that's going to form how they think. I mean, that's a dangerous thing. I'm completely against that. I almost want to go into school and raise hell, but I'm not the kind of person. But being involved in the kid's life and teaching them critical thinking, I think, is huge.
Yeah, I always try to teach my son to don't be afraid to ask questions. And when you hear something, give it a thought of the opposite view, and then question it. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. And if somebody denies you that right, or somebody says don't ask questions, or you're too young, you don't qualify, don't listen to them. Then ignore them. Don't ignore them.
Yeah, but I do that to you, and you call me an asshole.
That's the response.
Every time I say something, well, you always got to be blah, blah, blah.
That's the response. That's why. So now my son will just call people assholes.
Yeah, nice.
You ask stupid shit. That's why.
I don't ask stupid shit. You just said no questions are dumb.
From a kid.
Oh, okay. All right. We're going to pound Rob. We're going to say dumb.
Gary, is there something that you wanted to mention we haven't talked about, bring up, we didn't talk about either, or something on your website? I saw there's one article you posted about the recent penis lunch.
Penis lunch?
Lunch like a rocket.
Oh, launch.
Yeah.
Like penis
yeah.
lunch. Who the fuck
Not something you would eat. No. You would. No wonder.
I thought you said penis lunch.
Yeah. I don't want to eat that again.
No.
It was a terrible meal. I don't recommend it.
It was Blue Origins.
Yeah. So I talked about it, and I was thinking about it because obviously a lot of people are like, well, this is dumb. A bunch of Botox celebrities going up in this rocket. They're not actually astronauts. They don't even have helmets on. But I was thinking about it, and this is a precursor for what is to come as far as space tourism. Now, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago when William Shatner went up in one of the rockets and he did his thing. That was probably the true beginning of it. But if you look back in history, when they first created cruise liners that went across the ocean, it was almost exclusively available to the rich and famous, just like how space rocket flights are now. Now, same thing with airplanes. When airplanes were first invented, rich and famous people could only afford it, or they got offered flights on it. They were the first people to do it. And that's the same thing for space tourism. So eventually, my prediction is in the next 15, 20 years, space flights for tourists related activities are going to become cheaper. So I told my wife the other day, we might be, nearing our 50th wedding anniversary. And then, I'm like, hey, babe, do you want to go to the space station for a weekend? It's only $10,000. Let's do that. Instead of going to Europe for a week to go backpacking, that's a possibility. And that's the difference between what Blue Origin is doing versus what SpaceX is doing. SpaceX is focused more on multiplanetary life, doing actual science. And Blue Origin's focused more so on the commercial tourist side of things, which is an inevitable outcome of space exploration.
Have you watched the show called For All Mankind?
I have not. What is it on?
All right. I think that's on Amazon Prime. And it's about, so it goes back to race to space against Soviets. And it's interesting because technologically we are more advanced, but in that time, in that era, mid 1900s to going towards 1980s, but technologically we already been on Mars. We got to the point where there is a space hotel. Like you go into space and you can stay in the hotel there. But the times are back in like 1960s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah. The aesthetic's way cooler that way.
Yeah.
That's why I don't know if you ever read anything by Robert Heinlein. Robert Heinlein, he wrote so Grok, like on X, Elon Musk, his AI Grok, that's what it comes from, one of his books, Robert Heinlein, and Grok is like an AI computer, but it was written back during that time. So the aesthetic is like 1950s, 1960s, but the technology is way more advanced. So I would encourage anybody listening to listen to some Robert Heinlein audiobooks. They're super fun.
Yeah, check out that show, because what you're talking about, the space travel, or travel into space for touristy stuff. That show For All Mankind is pretty interesting. I think you would enjoy it.
I'm going to look it up tonight. Actually, I'm going to write it down.
Yeah. And I think that in the future, we're not just going to be going into space for tourists, but that's going to be means of transportation. So I believe that our flights will now become going into space and then coming back down, or orbital, because it's just faster. And we'll have technology to do that, and you're closing that gap. And we started with...
I think Virgin Galactic is doing things like that. They're creating those aircrafts that go more into the upper atmosphere. And I don't know if that helps fuel efficiency or what it does, but I mean, I'm sure it has some benefits there. I mean, if not with anything but time, travel, as far as getting there quicker.
I don't know about fuel efficiency, because if you look at those planes, the capacity of passengers is much smaller, and I think majority of the plane is probably taken up by fuel and the engines to be able to get you that high. Maybe getting up that high is a lot of fuel, just like a rocket, and then you're kind of cruising with less of a gravity pulling you down to Earth, and then it's easier to descend with less energy. I don't know. I'm not a physicist, but just my thought process. But I think as the technology in propulsion advances, that travel into the orbit and coming back down is just a faster means of transportation. What's the airplane?
Yeah, especially with reusable rockets and things like that.
Yeah, Boeing.
Yeah, reusable rockets and yeah.
Well, Concorde, I mean, they were discontinued because of...
Sorry, I might be lagging.
There you go. I think you're back. Can you hear us?
Nice. Yeah, I got you.
you. Concorde was discontinued because of the noise,
you still
right?
Got me?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was saying Concorde, I believe, was discontinued was it because of the noise?
I don't know. I thought those were super cool planes whenever they had them. I mean, they obviously, would go from point A to point B super fast. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why they discontinued them. I think it might have been like safety concerns potentially.
So I was in France and we went to a museum, and I got to go inside a Concorde, and such a big plane. Wow. It's such a big plane, but you look at number of passengers, it's not as many as like a Boeing 737, or it's half, if not a quarter, because I think a lot of the space occupies engines and fuel tanks in order to be able to send that plane so fast. But with today's technology, I think it will improve, and they don't have to be just as big. Just like I think space travel will be done by nuclear reactors on board, because that's your long-term energy, right?
I hope so. I'm a huge fan of nuclear energy. I think with today's technology and the way things are going with that, nuclear energy should be looked into more. I don't know why it's not. I think people are obviously spooked out about it. But I mean, imagine. I mean, I've read enough science fiction books where they were saying, "Hey, you can put nuclear technology into a battery this big, and it would run your house for 100 years." And it's like, why can't we look into stuff like that? And part of me thinks it's because of money. All these industries and sectors are reliant on us as consumers to pay them money, and they don't want that to go away. They just don't.
Just like electric cars, they existed early 1900s, and petroleum companies bought out the designs or rights to them, and it's in their best interest not to release at the time, because then that could affect the price of oil and profits.
Well, Bill Gates has got this thing going on with these really tiny micro reactors now. But all this technology is good for competition.
There are companies. When we talked to Paul on our show, I talked about this company in Europe that designed a modular nuclear power reactors, and the more the town or the city or the neighborhood needs, you add these modular cells with a nuclear reaction to create more energy. And, our aircraft carriers are run on nuclear, our submarines are on nuclear. So if it's that dangerous, why would we put it in and surrounded by, U.S. military?
Yeah. No, we should use it more. I think it would save us a lot of time and money. And it would just be more efficient. I mean, space travel, land travel, everything, would be a lot more efficiently ran for cheaper. But that's the thing. They don't want it cheaper. There's too much value in having the population controlled with energy bills and that income that they get from taxes and everything else. I think we're in a broken system. And I think that broken system needs, honestly, to collapse so it can be rebuilt correctly.
As you run out of resources, you're left with no choice. So maybe we'll reach that point.
Everything in our life right now runs on oil. I mean, everything we have here, like these got here because someone delivered them on a truck.
And it's plastic is made from oil.
Right, exactly. Everything is connected to oil.
Gary, it was really nice meeting you, and this was a fun conversation. So it's nice to hear different points, different views on things like politics, survival, and I like some ideas. I like to what did you call it? Moderate prepper, or
I was practical prepping.
Practical prepper. So maybe I'm a practical prepper too. So it's kind of fun to talk to somebody about same interests and how you do it. Maybe learn something from it. But it was a pleasure meeting.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Honestly, it's that's why I like being the podcast guest instead of hosting a podcast. I get to meet awesome guys like you and just talk about ideas that I think people should maybe at least ponder more, and maybe create some more discussion around it, because that's really where it all starts.
we hope you had fun. And is there, you want to put a plug to your website or any other social media?
Yeah, guys. I mean, if you want to follow me, I'm at a Gary Bear 86 on most social medias. I'm on X, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. My website is gary-phipps.com. I post articles, pretty much anything my crazy mind can think about. I put on there. Not a whole lot of videos or anything, but I write a lot of articles. So yeah, if you want to follow me. It's not all the, you might not enjoy it 100% of the time, but it's me.
Yeah.
We'll end this here, and then hold on, don't go away, Gary. Follow us on Hop Top Network and follow us on all social media pages. Please help us get to 4,000 followers on Instagram, and we're still doing that giveaway. And then we want to, I don't know if audio is lost or not on Gary's side. We just want to say thank you to Gary for being a guest, and we enjoyed the conversation and the company, and you're always welcome back. But Gary, if you can hear us, don't go away. We'll want to reconnect and say proper goodbye.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.